Hello, everyone. This is Terri Mitchell with the Voice on Fire Interviews with Intentions. I'd love for you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you are new to my channel, I love interviewing people that I find fascinating. They are the change agents of the world. They're people making a difference, taking action. They're having impact either around their local communities or across our global village. And today I'd love to introduce you to someone I believe who does all of that. Her name is Terri Tonkin. Thank you, Terri, for joining me on the Voice on Fire interviews.
Thanks, Terri. It's like the Terri and Terri show.
I know, it's crazy, hey?
Yeah, it's been a few years since we've actually had eye-to-eye contact, but thank you very much for the opportunity this morning, and I really appreciate it. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. It's been a while we met personally, and yeah, this is a great opportunity for us to now expand on our conversation and share with the world what it is you do. So I'm going to throw the first question to you and share with our audience what it is that you do, and let's start there.
Okay. I've had quite a varied employment history, but in the last few years, I studied life coaching. I did speaker training, and that's where I met Terri. And then a few things changed in my life. My mum sadly passed away at the end of 2019. I stepped back away from my business, was starting to get back into it in early 2020. My husband phoned me from work and said, I no longer have a job. He was made redundant, and we actually took that as a blessing because he was about to look at retirement later in 2020. And we decided this was a perfect opportunity. We'd just go 6 months early and start our travel. The week after, the travel show was on. We went and booked a beautiful lot of travel, and a month later, we cancelled it because of the world pandemic. And then it was like, well, what do I want to do now? I had written my own book in 2018. I wanted to have that written before my mum passed, which I achieved. In 2019, a writing opportunity came up for me. And then in 2020, when all this happened, I thought, what am I going to do now? And I had 2 opportunities come my way, 2 writing opportunities. So I did 2 books in 2020. I did 2 books in 2002, compilation books, not my own books, books in 2021. And this year I've done like 6 compilation books.
Wow.
Months ago, yeah, I think I've found my passion. 12 months ago, I decided I would expand my writing services, I guess. And I had been following a guy in America in ghostwriting school, and I on one of his trainings one day, and I was just like, yeah, this is where I'd like to go. So I'm an author in my own right. I have been a ghostwriter now for 12 months. I have completed 2 manuscripts, and I'm working on my 3rd in less than 12 months. I've been asked to do copywriting and content writing, and I just went, oh no, they're not my gig. Well, in the last 3 months, I've been doing content writing. I've done some travel blogs. So it's expanding slowly. And I was at a networking event just recently, and one of the ladies there said, have you ever thought about getting into grant writing?
Oh, wow, yes.
She has said to me, if I want to go down that path, she's quite happy to mentor me through that process. It's actually opened up more opportunities for me. So, yeah, I'm an author, a ghostwriter, and I'm doing content writing, which was something I didn't think I would do.
Yeah,
I love writing.
Yeah, oh, well, clearly, yeah. And that sort of segues into a thought that was going through my mind as you were saying that. And it sort of harks back to my original pathway that I followed and I was mentioning before our interview started that I had learned HTML code so that I could create my own website or page as it was. And that's obviously harking back to the days like around 2004, give or take. And the reason I had done that was because I thought I loved writing myself and that I would be a copywriter. I enjoyed it in part, but the thing for me, and where this is leading as a question for you, is for me, I found that the moment I was required to write for somebody to a specific degree, to a specific deadline, I lost my passion for writing. How do you find your love of writing combined with all of those pressures? How has that worked for you?
I have been a little bit selective. One of the things that was advised and in the training through the ghostwriting was only do 2 projects at a time, so that you can still focus on that particular manuscript or particular piece of work without becoming overwhelmed. For the content writing, I can space that fairly well. And with the ghostwriting, I allow up to 6 months for a manuscript. So it gives me plenty of time. It gives the author plenty of time. The first manuscript I did, I had it in and out in just over 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Clicked really, really well. And she would do literally a brain dump. And I would see dot points. And I would just work from that. The next one took me a little bit over the 6 month. She had some family issues to deal with. She became unwell with the virus. Things happen. I normally allow 4 to 6 months so that it's not rushed. The manuscript that I'm working on now, I think we've allowed 6 months, but we're hoping to get it out in 4. But we've given ourselves time.
Yeah, and I can echo from my own, again, personal experience being someone who loves writing, and my own journey in writing my own books. I laugh because the novel that I created, I started writing back in 1998. And I published it just a couple of years ago. So I totally understand how some things take time and life gets in the way. In terms of setting up the projects, one of the things I'd love just to share with the audience, for those who may not know, what is ghostwriting, so that people have an understanding of what it is you're actually doing?
Ghostwriting is where you have a story to tell, and that story needs to be shared. You don't have the time, you don't have the experience, you don't have the confidence, you don't feel that you could actually write your story. And that's when you engage a ghostwriter. I come in, we have a conversation, we determine the purpose of your book, or the purpose of your manuscript, or the purpose of the piece of work, but particularly books. So who is your audience going to be? Why is it that you're writing this book? Is it to leave a legacy? Is it to leverage your business? Is it to use as part of your marketing? Is it part of your ClickFunnels? Whatever the case may be, we determine that up front. We determine what you want to achieve. So your purpose and the outcome. And then I'll have conversations. Face-to-face is beautiful. Zoom is good. I've had phone calls, emails, messenger, whatever the case may be. If I have questions, I'll keep asking. And then when I've written, maybe it's a chapter, I'll hand that back to the author, because they become the author. I hand that back and I go, am I on the right track? Because I need to embody their essence. I need to hear their voice. I need to hear their tone. I need to use their language. So it's not me writing their story, it's me writing their story the way they would write it, or the way they would write it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then at the end of all of that, for me, I don't go beyond writing the manuscript. There are some ghostwriters who will go into the publishing and the marketing. I don't. I write the manuscript and then it is up to them. Some people just want to write. They don't necessarily want to publish. What I do is I have contacts in the publishing world, so I can go, okay, you can do it yourself this way, or you can go the traditional way, or you can go this way with an agent. That's up to them. But they have the final say. Read the manuscript and go, love it. Can we change it? Can we take that out? Can we add something in? It's theirs. They can, I'll make the amendments, but it's up to them as to the finished product, because it's their name that goes on it. And in saying that, people say to me, oh, but you don't get any glory out of it. Well, I do, in that I've had the pleasure of sharing their story. Name doesn't necessarily have to be on the book, in the book, even mentioned anywhere. That is up to the author, and that is in my agreement. I have full confidentiality. If they choose to announce to the world, here's my book, but Terri, that's up to them. Or they could put an acknowledgement and say, thank you very much, Terri Tonkin, for your assistance in putting this together. They don't have to say that I have to, that I had actually written it. So there's ways around it. And all I ask is a signed copy at the end.
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah, that's lovely. And one of the things that strikes me that I personally found always challenging, and it can be a positive challenge, but can also be one that's a little bit of a difficulty, is actually capturing the language of the person that you're writing on behalf of. Because the one thing that tends to strike me as I wouldn't say it's a challenge. I'm trying to find the word, but it's just that one little bump in the process is really knowing how do you convey somebody's language so that the book actually sounds like they themselves have written it. And I think that comes down to a lot of what you're explaining in terms of you ask a lot of questions. So how do you go about capturing that voice for the one person, or in whatever capacity that you're writing? How do you go about capturing their voice?
I take a lot of notes. I still handwrite a lot of notes, but I also record our conversations. I can go back and make sure that I've got their language, because I'll go to write something and I'll go, no, that's not what they said. And I can go back through the recordings. And I keep those recordings until I hand the manuscript over. And once I've handed that over, then my notes are gone, the recordings are gone.
Okay. Yeah. It's certainly a challenge, because obviously everyone speaks in their own language. And one of the things I found through the copywriting process, particularly if I took on international clients, is capturing the international nuances. How do you go about managing that? Do you do any research? What's involved there?
I haven't done any copywriting. It's not a skill set that I have ventured into. I have done content writing, blogs, and when I do the content writing, the web designers that I've worked with, they will actually do the keyword search and say, can you make sure this goes to a piece of work? In the travel blogs that I did the research myself, and then I wrote the travel blogs. So it's a little bit different depending on who I'm working with, and what their style is as well.
So it does come down to a degree of just doing some research and being mindful, whether it be copywriting or manuscripts or content, whichever's involved. I found that there was always just that little nuance of, oh, we don't say that word, or what does that word mean? We don't say that. And having to capture catch myself out when I was trying to capture their language. So I find that's one of the most fascinating aspects of being a ghostwriter, from what you've explained there, is being able to share someone's story as though they themselves have actually written it. So I think it's a real skill that you've developed there.
Yeah, and I got a beautiful compliment the other day to the lady that I'm working with at the moment. We're new into the relationship, but I've done the first chapter and I'm working on the second. And she started reading the first chapter to her adult son. And she said he just sat there and went, oh my God, Mum, that's you.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
That just went, whoo. Even in that, she said to me, when she read through it, she said, there's just one or two words I need you to include. Take that word out. I don't use that word, but I use this word. That's what we do.
Wow. That's a mighty compliment to be able to pretty much nail someone's personality all in the space of the written word. It's quite a skill. Kudos to you. So what I'd like to lead into is a little bit more, and we have sort of touched on it, but I'd like to lead into it a little bit more. Who do you do this for? Now, it's not so much the work that you do, but who do you do it for?
When I started and I put it out to the universe, my first client came to me and she said, I know you, I trust you, we've networked together. And I asked her all about her story, and I thought, wow, this is really interesting. one of the books that I contributed to last year was Forever Touched by Suicide. I lost my brother to suicide, so that's my story. One of the other authors came to me and said, I love your style of writing. Will you write in my compilation book? And I said, oh, what's the genre, you know? And she said, domestic violence. And I went, no. I said, I've been very blessed. I've never had to suffer it, deal with it. I feel blessed. So I said, I don't feel that I could write on that subject. And she said, what about your perspective? And I said, well, I don't think that's writing with integrity, because that's my perspective. It's an opinion, and I don't want to raise falsehoods. And she went, okay, fair enough. My first client was a domestic violence survivor. And I believe that I was able to write her story because I didn't have the emotional attachment to it. So we wrote it as a fictional memoir, some legal things happening in the background. And I said, before you publish it, make sure you've been to a solicitor,
Absolutely.
Yourself in that respect. But we did it as a fictional memoir. So I changed all the names, I changed all the places, everything other than the actual events. The next client that came to me was referred to me by a publisher, and her genre was domestic violence.
Oh, okay.
And again, it was a different sort of approach. Yes, she had gone through that, but she was also using it. She's writing the book as a teaching tool. She wants churches to become involved in the process.
Okay.
She was coming at it from a different angle. The lady that I'm working with now is an intuitive healer.
Okay.
We were talking the other day, and I said to her, now, what actually happened when you went through the event? And she said, no, I've never verbalized it before. But I was able to capture that. The gold nugget is when, even in the domestic violence, they've never verbalized it, but I'm able to share their story.
I hear what you're saying. It's a case, I think, sometimes that many of us have stories, and like it's easy to say many of us have stories, but in real sense, many of us have stories that are so deeply personal and at times incredibly traumatizing that while we're growing as people and emerging as functional adults so that we can continue to survive within society, a lot of the time we're still processing the stuff that has happened that is still the layers beneath. And, you know, for some, the trauma is healed quickly, literally, but for some, it's there. It's just part of the essence of their makeup. And for some, as you say, they've never verbalized it. Now, that could be because they've not trusted to talk to anyone about it before. They've never felt safe enough to say so. Or perhaps they've just never had the words, because trauma can really take away the words. It's
absolutely.
And to have someone within your skill set and capacity to be able to take them on that journey, how do you find that for yourself? Like, what you say that it's because you've not personally been through it, and we're blessed when we can say that, as you say, but if you've not personally been through that and you see yourself as being able to emotionally detach, how do you feel afterwards? What's the way that you help yourself to cope with learning of their stories?
I guess I go back to my coaching skills. I use my coaching skills to ask the right questions to get the right information. And then I also use my coaching skills to process all of that so that I can actually step outside. I can go, my job is to write this story. I'm not emotionally attached to the story, but I feel what they're going through. And of course I'll go, oh, geez, that's pretty crap, you know, you're having to go through that. And then I can process. So I acknowledge what they've gone through, absolutely. So I have that awareness, I have that acknowledgement. And then okay, yeah, that would have been really horrible. You can't imagine how they felt.
Mm.
We think we can, but we can't.
Absolutely.
So again, I just step outside of that rather than going deep into their pain, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly a fascinating area that you're working in, because in a lot of ways, as you've just mentioned, it's almost like you're incorporating a number of different skills. You're not just writing, you're in a lot of ways perhaps even coaching through that process in order to help people to find their story. Some probably are already very clear about what they want to share with the world, but some may also be walking through a bit of a minefield. As you mentioned, there may be some that need to actually have what they're writing cleared with a lawyer before they can even reveal it to the world. So it's a very complex area to be working in. And perhaps you didn't even realize that, you know, the moment you put that out to the universe, there were going to be people who would resonate with your skill sets and your compassion and your coaching style to be able to finally feel safe enough to share their story.
Yeah, and I guess it's, again, in my agreement, I'm very strong on the confidentiality. Like I've told you, the manuscripts I've written, but I've at no time mentioned who they were, where they are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Their story to tell.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
they want to share that part of their story, that's up to them.
Yeah.
And like I said, some people, and for me, writing is therapeutic anyway. And for some people, just to be able to verbalize their story and tell their story and share their story with me, sometimes that's enough to help the healing process progress. Yeah. And my first client, like I said to you, I told her, make sure you get all the legal stuff sorted. She was still having consultations with their therapists. And I said, I want to make sure that your therapists understand what we're doing. And I want to make sure that it's okay to do this, because I don't want to take you backwards or to regress. I want you to move forward. So I also let them know that I'm quite okay if the therapist says, no, don't go there. Don't go there. Yeah. If the therapist says, yes, maybe you need to go there. Well, let's explore that and see how it goes. If it moves us forward, fantastic. If we have a little bit of setback, we can take our time. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I bring in those coaching skills again to make sure that they're in a safe environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's such a gift that you're bringing, because I certainly know, just personally and also with people that I've worked with, that until we can verbalize and feel safe in doing so, a lot of the time it just perpetuates the trauma. So being able to release the story in a safe way that says, I'm growing in my voice and growing in my power to be able to share my story. And as we were saying before the actual interview started, we're not necessarily more unique than anyone else, but we are unique in ourselves. And it's recognizing that, we have a unique story, even though the story in itself is probably one like many others have gone through. It's our own unique experience of it. And I think that just being able to give people the voice to be able to share their story, so that it helps to bring peace and growth to that person, so that they can contribute more effectively in the world. I mean, you're doing something that's really quite amazing for people who probably need this more than ever. Which kind of leads me into another question that I'd love to explore at a deeper level. Why do you do it?
Why do I do it? Like I said, I found my passion. And I was quite mature when I found my passion to write my own book, my first book, and then to have the other opportunities. And the compilation books that I've been in, like I've been in 12 compilation books, and I've just signed up to the 2. The compilation books really bring it home that everybody has a story, and everybody has a story that can be shared. And I guess it's taken me a long time to realise my gifts and my talents, and why not share those with others. So for me, it is a personal journey The more I write, the better I become.
Yeah.
The more I can offer that service to people to allow them to share their stories. The more authors we'll have, the more stories we'll have, the more stories will be shared, and hopefully more peace will come from that, internally and externally.
Yeah.
People will realise they're not alone.
Which in a way is kind of in keeping with a thought that was just going through my mind. The one thing that stands out to me out of all of that is connectedness, and the idea that as we share our stories, we realise we're not so alone. We are more connected. There is a lot more between us that is more familiar and similar than different. And I think in today's day and age, particularly since the pandemic has kept us so isolated, and so many things are causing great concern in the world at this time, I think the one thing that we really are missing more than ever is real connectedness. And I think not just the sharing of stories, but the recognition that although our stories may at times be painful, they may at times be very difficult to put into words, or to even speak the words to say, this is what's happened for me. I think at the end of the day, it helps us to realize that my story may be unique, but someone else out in the world needs to hear it so that they know that they're not alone. There is somebody who feels what they're feeling, is going through something similar. Because I think we really need to remember to come back to that cohesive sense of society. We need to become more connected again. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And many years ago, when I first started my coaching business, I called it Connect Within, because from a coaching perspective, we need to connect within ourselves before we can connect with anybody else. And when I moved into ghostwriting, somebody said, are you going to start a new business? And I went, no, I'm keeping Connect Within, because that's what I'm doing. I'm helping people connect with their heart, I'm helping them connect with others. So my business name is just perfect for what I do now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And do you have any particular major goals that you'd like to achieve with this, in terms of, obviously with that we were having a bit of a giggle before the interview started about our respective experiences of technology, and I'm wondering how you feel about the idea of perhaps being able to take this gift that you've got and taking it in some sort of I suppose global capacity or global reach. What are your thoughts there?
I'm already connected. Like I said, I'm connected with the ghostwriting school in America. And through that, I've made beautiful connections, and I've shared resources with a couple of other people in there. The 2 compilation books that I'm doing coming up, one, the lady who's putting that one together is in Canada. So that will be distributed around there. And the other one that I'm going into is located in America, and I will actually be talking about my ghostwriting in her book. So I'm getting my tentacles out there.
Absolutely. And I think it's really yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it is a skill, a craft that I can do anywhere in the world at any time. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really valuable that we even recognize that technology has given us that extended platform now, that we can connect with not just our own communities, which is great. We've got to start somewhere, but when the opportunities are there, we really do have the opportunities to spread far and wide and start to perhaps weave those tentacles in and around greater community across the world. I think, as I said, we need more connectedness, and I think you're providing that opportunity for people to share their stories and realize that there is reason to, as you say, perfect business name, connect within, so that they can feel safe within themselves to be more authentically expressive and share their story.
Absolutely. The client that I'm working with now is interstate. I'm in Queensland, my client's in Victoria. So my other 2 have been reasonably local to where I am, not in the same suburb, but reasonably local. They've been in Brisbane. My current client is in Victoria. Like I said, I'm starting to get the tentacles in through America and Canada. So,
awesome. And just one big question to round it out. What's your one big wish for society?
I was asked the other day what my branding word was, and I said connection. And I still think, as we were just saying, we are humans, we are emotive beings, and we need to have physical connection as much as we possibly can. And if we can't have physical connection, then through technology like we're doing now, through the written word, and sharing those stories and letting other people know that this has happened to me, or this has happened around me. If this has happened to you, there is another way, or there is a way. Reach out, help, become a community again. And just, that community connection. And like you said, our community now is not just our local street or our local suburb. It's our towns, our cities, our country, and then globally. So we don't just live in a little tiny community anymore. We are a global community.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one catch cry I have all the time is and it's partly what the Voice on Fire platform's about, is reaching the global village, because I think, we really are now, we really don't have any excuse as to why we cannot connect around the world. Obviously, unless you've got really bad Wi-Fi.
That has happened.
But at the end of the day, we really do need to reach out and take responsibility for the fact that we are part of a global community. And I love the idea that you support the notion, and that your branding and your message and everything that you do is about connectedness. And I think that's really where we need to start again. So it's lovely to hear that you have that as one of your driving forces.
It's one of my top values, actually. One of my is connection.
Yeah, I can hear that throughout the story that you've shared. Now, as we wrap up, where can people find you in terms of all ways that they can connect with you? I will list those details in the description below the YouTube video and also below the podcast. But share just a couple of details about where people can find you.
I am on Facebook under Terri Tonkin. I am on Facebook under Connect Within. I'm on LinkedIn under Terri Tonkin. And I am on Instagram, but I don't use it very much, under Connect Within AU. So I don't use Instagrams very much, though.
No, I totally understand. And if for anyone that has listened to this, if any of the conversation that we've had today has in any way triggered you, or you felt in any way that this has been a little bit confronting for you about sharing your story, we do understand, and please do not go through anything by yourself. Both Terri and I are capable of assisting you if all you need to do is talk and share what's going on for you. If not us, please reach out and seek any sort of support. Don't go through anything alone. You are not alone. Your story is something that someone needs to hear, even if it's the first time you share. And Terri Tonkin may be that person to help you share your story. So please just reach out if you need to speak with somebody. Terri Tonkin, it's been lovely having this conversation with you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to sharing this message with our audience.
Thank you again, Terri. Really appreciate the time and the opportunity. Thank you.
Perfect. You're watching or listening to Voice on Fire Interviews with Intention. If you're new to Voice on Fire interviews, you'll hear from everyday amazing people on a mission to make a difference. These people are change agents, action takers, and difference makers, having a positive impact on their local community or across our global village. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell for updates on new interviews. I hope you enjoy.